You built the business. Now, build the man. This is the Ben Price experience.
Penny Power. Welcome.
Welcome. Lovely to be here.
Who are you and why are you here?
So having done this with you, I know that my answer is not going to be quite as succinct as yours.
That's all right. I had some time to think about it.
Who am I? So I am a mother of 3 adult entrepreneurs, a wife of 36 years this year,
Congratulations.
the last child of 4, the youngest of 4. And I started off at 19 as a reluctant businesswoman and have been a very happy businesswoman ever since. And why am I here? I think I'm here to bring great children into the world and make sure that they are great contributing adults. And I am also here to serve business owners, of which I am one, to help them navigate this extremely lonely, chaotic, exciting journey that can be very lonely. And I think one of the most important things for me ever since I was very young is to help people know that they matter and that they're seen and they are significant.
Very good.
So that's me.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you serve business owners to start with?
Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
So they say, that expression, women, I might get it wrong. People buy what they need, but you give them what, they buy what they want, but you give them what they need.
I've used that very expression today. So
Have
yeah.
you?
Sell them what they want, give them what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have this community has been a huge part of our lives. I think it's always been important. I think family is the first community you create and you're born into. And then if you're very fortunate, you get to create it yourself. And I think that's the first community. But since 98, I've been serving business owners through the belief system that a group of people that love one another and care for one another and see one another is very powerful. And that's what I do now with Thomas, my husband. We both have very complementary skills, but the same passion and values. And so we have BIP100, which stands for Business is Personal, which is the name of my book that I authored in 2018 and published. And I do believe that we need to build very strong, intimate relationships with people to help us through our lives. Like the expression, it takes a village to grow a child. I think it takes a village to grow a business. And when I said that expression, people buy what they want, but you give them what they need. People buy probably membership thinking this is a network. They'll meet people, they'll grow their business by selling and finding transactional opportunities. But actually what they need is people that have got their back, that they need a wide range of knowledge constantly because the world's evolving so much. They need experts that are willing to help them and listen to them as experts, and constantly grow both personally and professionally. And that's what we want to deliver through our community. And it's not Thomas and I being the masters of this. The members are the masters of that knowledge. They are the incredible experts. That's our job, to create the culture and love them and give them confidence.
Well, you do a great job. And obviously I'm a member of BIP as well at this moment. And it is a fantastic community. Really, I'd say high caliber people.
Yeah.
I'd say warm people, high consciousness people, which is rare. I've been a member of many other organizations, groups and communities, and I think it's very rare. Yeah.
Well, it's lovely of you to say, and we love having you with us. And, Thomas has done over 8,000 Zoom interviews to find the 100 members that are with us. And of course, we get a few members leaving, each year, and it enables new people to come in. But you are effectively, for me, you are my work son. And you are. I care deeply. And that's why I started by saying, family is such a huge thing to me, and community is just an extension of that. And we all have a finite memory and energy, and in terms of time, and that's why we limited it to 100 as opposed to the 650,000 members we had when we were building a global online community. And yeah, it's a really beautiful experience, and it's so natural because all we're doing is healing some people's sense of self-worth, but also which is very important for confidence, and confidence is very important for growth, and so that you charge what you are really worth and you value yourself in the way that you should be valued. And it's a really beautiful experience, really lovely.
Mm.
Mm.
Great. So you started off by saying you were a reluctant businesswoman. So
Mm.
was that the start of your journey into business, or?
Yeah, so I'm the last of four, and I came from, my parents were both Scottish, moved south just as I was about to be born, so my siblings were all Scottish. I was called the English Nuck because I was born in the south. All my family, 98% of my DNA is Scottish. So,
Very nice.
and my parents, I would say, were very classic of that generation, the silent generation. So I do know they loved me, but I think duty went before love. Everything was do the right thing. And I really learnt early on to get attention. I needed to contribute, which I think was a really big gift in life for to my siblings and to my parents. And I think I became very much someone who served others. And then we had a neighbour move in with cerebral palsy child, and I fell in love with this little boy, Toby, and he used to go there after school and school holidays, looking after him, loved it. He was just super. He was very disabled. So I could feed him and play with him, and his smile was just amazing. And then I ended up doing voluntary work into the physio department that he went to, and I thought, right, I'm going to be a physiotherapist.
Oh.
And I was at a private school in Newbury that my parents paid for, which I'm grateful for. They thought I was worth spending that money on, but it unfortunately didn't follow any curriculum when it came to doing my exams. I hadn't covered any of the subjects that was in the official exam system. So I ended up having to do 3 years in a grammar school to retake and then do my A-levels. And during that period, they changed the qualification you needed to be a physiotherapist, and I wasn't able to get into it, having spent 7 years of that being my dream.
Wow.
So I then applied to uni to do psychology, and in that gap year, I was working in a pub and also working in a school, helping out as an assistant. And in the pub, a recruitment lady called Barbara came in and said I'd be brilliant in sales, and I didn't see it. Have a careers advisor that my parents had paid for had said I should be a blue coat at Butlins, and then here was somebody telling me that I should be in sales, and I thought, well, people are seeing something different to the way I see myself. And anyway, I went for an interview, was persuaded into it, joined this tech company, age 19, left home, which was the right thing to do anyway, and. But I was reluctant about going to business because business was very transactional. It was very me. It was very financial, and that wasn't how I wanted to contribute. But I was very fortunate with my first boss. He really recognised that I had another side to me, and I got promoted during this sort of 9 months before I went to uni. And he didn't know I was going to go to uni. I got promoted to be a supervisor, and it was there that I learned the joy of supervision and management, because you are basically serving others to be successful. And on reflection, I was told later I was a servant leader. And that's just always been my joy in life, is to see other people grow. And of course, if you're in a leadership position in business, if you're only focused on the growth of the people that work for you and on your clients, of course, what happens is you get promoted because your team is successful.
Mm.
And so I ended up having an incredibly successful career in the tech industry until I left, became a mummy. So that was 34 years ago, nearly.
Mm.
Yeah.
You say you were a servant leader.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So Robert Greenleaf wrote about this in the late 70s. And yeah, I've got the book behind me somewhere, I think. And it really is about, leading through serving others.
Lovely.
And taking care of them, having foresight. There's a lot of aspects of it, loving, caring. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's a form of leadership that I'm very lucky, and I don't say this in an arrogant way. It comes natural to my style, but I think it is a form of leadership that is the future of work. As in, I believe community is the future because of the way that people are working in such hybrid, lonely ways. Um, and I therefore, believe that leadership needs to be really geared towards how do you serve rather than what do I get.
Okay. Well, I've written a note to come back to that later, but you left the tech and then you became a mum.
Yeah.
And then what happened? What happened then? Because
Well, it was really interesting because I had grown up being really isolated in a village, and also all my siblings going off. So I knew loneliness,
right.
but I didn't really gain a great deal of social confidence, apart from the fact I used to cycle around this village all the time, talking to anybody that I could. And so I was confident in the moment, but not confident to proactively go out and find friends. And then you go into the workplace and they're there instantly. Although I never socialized with them, they were there. And then suddenly you become a mum, and I found myself at home in the same town I live now without really the confidence to invite somebody in over for a coffee and so very quickly I joined the National Childbirth Trust, and I said, could I create a group for new mums? Because NCT has, they stay in it for a long time. So
Right.
mums that were pre-pregnancy, could I just create a little coffee? And I had that at my house. And I set up a little business called Little Acorns, selling. My godfather had a manufacturing business, manufacturing different prams and things, and travel cots and things. And I just set up a little business. I remember it paid for our first kitchen table and chairs. But we went from, Thomas has always been the entrepreneur, but his business was about the exit, and so we went from my large salary to existing on a much smaller amount of income. And and then that's where I really learned the joy of, it sounds really weird, but the joy of scarcity.
Right.
Which sounds really weird because obviously we all talked about abundance.
Yeah.
But I remember I used to be able to go out and spend £2,000 on clothes, and we're talking about the 1980s, and not even look at my bank balance. I mean, it was an obscene amount of money I had. And suddenly I realized the day I went to Marks Spencer's and bought a new set of pants and put them out on my bed, how exciting it was to get some new knickers. And I thought, God, I don't remember being this excited about my coming home with £2,000 worth of clothes as I am about these knickers. And it really started to make me realize the value of things, and it was quite an important lesson in life. And I've been through this many times in my life, many ups and downs financially. And I always reflect on that moment of how we can just not value the small things in life. And yeah.
Do you think that's a lesson that you need to learn in order to have greater abundance?
I think it is. I think it actually is. And I've got a girlfriend, Liz, who she and I have been through every journey in life together since we were 22. She was born about 15 days before me. And, but we've known each other since we were 22. She used to work with me, work for me, work with me at my company. And we talk about it a lot, about happiest days are often the hardest. Because you learn something about yourself. I've just written a ponderings about, how people, I was writing one about the sense of belonging and how during some of the toughest times, wartime, during COVID, some people look back at these as really happy times because we were collectively sharing in some vulnerability, but coming together. And so, yeah, I think those hard times can help us become a community, and equally hard times in our life can help us to really drill into what really matters.
Yeah, nice. One of my declarations is that I am that everything happens for a reason, and I always find the reason.
Yeah, that's really good.
Because I think a lot of people say, oh, everything happens, and I've probably said it many times, that everything happens for a reason. But then when something happens and you're not happy about it, you don't actually find the reason.
Yeah.
You just
Absolutely. In 2018, I did turn to having some therapy, but I also turned to the desire to have a community, and I started going to church, and I was very far from where everybody else was in their connection to God. And I remember asking somebody, I think it was not the vicar, but somebody in the team, why do we have to go through such massive pains in life, if there's God? And sometimes, I had about 7 or 8 things happen very fast, which were painful, which I can talk about. There's no secret. That really was a very bad period of my life. And they said it's basically God needs people to experience adversity so they have more humility and more adversity, and more humility and more empathy
Mm.
for one another. And, this walk in someone else's shoes, it's very hard to walk in someone else's shoes completely unless you have actually experienced in your soul, in your DNA, in your every cell of your body, the pain of an experience. And it's when you have been through that, and I've been through so much of that in business and personally, that it enables me to have huge empathy at a really deep level, words unsaid almost, with
Yeah.
somebody that's going through pain.
Yeah. I reflecting on times where I've been in war zones and seen, real poverty and
Yeah.
hardship, and you return back to the UK and everything's like amazing.
And people do not realize
No,
how lucky we are and
we
how
really don't. And I
it's,
forget,
I know
I'm saying that
we
from
all
my own
do.
experience.
I
Yeah.
know. But the other thing is, when Thomas and I lost everything, having put everything into business for 14 years, I really realized how little you need to be happy and how much we constrain ourselves to hold on to material things in life, large houses, brilliant cars,
Mm.
the holidays, all these things that you end up taking for granted anyway, that can absolutely, can shorten your life and can make you a stressful, unhappy person. And sometimes I think that I would be the antidote to a lot of people's stress if I shared their story that we've been through, but also I don't think the government would particularly love it because I just watched so many people going through so much stress trying to hold on in their 60s to a large home, for
Right.
example. And the cost of living crisis and how much things have gone up, and they're seeing their money reducing. And I've got friends, where I live, Thomas and I've really scaled our lives back once we didn't need a family home.
Mm.
Um, and I know that the children find it blissful to be with us because we're not stressed people
Right.
and we can focus on their growth and their needs as well as our clients because we're not trying to hold on to the material wealth that so many people do try and hold on to.
Mm. Yeah. Well, you're detached from needing anything.
Yeah. Doesn't mean to say my ego sometimes when I invite somebody over, and we've got a beautiful apartment, but in where we live, people have £3 million houses,
Right.
and doesn't mean my ego doesn't sometimes feel uncomfortable with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think people judge people.
Yeah.
uh,
You're like, I'm actually a lot more successful than this.
And you sort of want to say that,
Right.
I want to say
Yeah.
that. I even thought about having pictures of our house that we had before life hit the shit up on a wall,
Yeah.
but I don't. But
Yeah.
because that really would be, this is who I used to be, but this is actually
Mm.
who I am now. And if you want to know me, this is who I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to have quite a nice car, which was a Tesla,
Right.
and now I just drive a really old truck.
Oh, that's so cool.
Well, it's way cooler,
That's
way
very
way
cool.
more
That's
useful than a
your
Tesla.
brand and everything, your camps and
Yeah,
yeah.
true. Yeah, but the ego definitely took a hit,
Yeah.
because I had to get rid of the Tesla anyway financially, and when my gym business failed, failed. I mean, it was a great thing that it failed, but because it means I get to do this, but it still hit my ego big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that, we do hold on to identities massively, and it's
Mm.
important, but we just have to know when it's actually killing us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, which is kind of why I start with that question.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who
Why
are
are you
you?
here?
I can't do it as succinctly as you.
I think though. I'm pretty sure if you were to sit down for 10 minutes and think about it, you'd have something.
Pretty quick.
Yeah,
I
because
think
you're.
I do know, but it has been a big journey to let
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it is. It's, because you are full of dreams of all the things you could become and how people might think of you. But Thomas and I did have a period when, people would stop me in the tube stations to take a selfie with me, and we were well known and we were front of newspapers, and with our .com business and everything. And it didn't, I know now it didn't give me any more joy.
Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah.
In fact, it was a very stressful period of our lives. And I
So,
remember somebody coming to a speech. I was at an event and she came up to me. This was about 10 or 12 years ago. And she said, after my speech, she came up to me. She said, I wasn't going to come today because I don't like you. I knew you were speaking. I said, well, that's really honest of you. And she said, but you're completely different to the perception I had of you.
Mm.
And, people create identities of people because at that stage, I looked like this incredible .com success, 3 kids, good marriage. And I've never been one to share holidays or flashy things on social media. But there was obviously an identity that people had created of me.
Yes. Yeah.
Which people do. I mean,
Yeah.
I do it. We make judgments on people.
Yeah. People do it to me all the time because they just hear the word special forces and intelligence and army, and that's like, oh, there's a whole thing that they create. It's interesting.
I know. It is really interesting. And I remember another really important moment after E-cademy, we sold it or whatever in 2012, not for the amount of money that we needed for it to pay off our own personal debts, keeping it going, but we sold it. And so suddenly we felt a little bit insignificant, right? This guy didn't want it. He changed the name of the company, and it was just like a real serious grieving. And
so similar to my gym process.
I suddenly had to think, well, who am I? And, and everything. But one of the identities I had was as a public speaker and things. And I used to speak all over the world and go into a green room and, everybody blowing smoke up my bottom. And then one day, about a year and a half later, I was asked to go down to Bristol to speak, and I didn't get paid nearly what I normally would get paid. And I walked in, nobody knew who I was, nobody took care of me, and I stood up in front of the audience, and nobody in the room knew of me. And I went into the loo and I Googled, I tried to Google what it was, and definitely was somewhere sitting in my ego. And on the way home, I called Thomas and he said, how did it go? And I said, no, it was really difficult because nobody knew who I was and I'm not used to that. And he said, it's wonderful, isn't it? And I said, what do you mean it's wonderful? I said, I'm starting from zero. And he said, wow, it's lovely, isn't it? It's a lovely thing. And I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right, actually. Because when you can walk into a room and
create anything you want.
Nobody has those predefined identities around you.
Yeah. Well, this is so interestingly, so I used to smoke, and when I was in the army, you used to change where you were every 2 years. And I noticed you could kind of reinvent your identity because you're going to a whole new group of people. And so my smoking would be a lot less when I go to this new place because it wasn't really who I was. And because you don't have the same habits, people don't know that's what you're doing. It was very, I sort of noticed that.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, you were a new person every time, whole new group of people.
But you were to them, but to you, you still had your creation of who you were.
Yeah.
Which is the one that matters more than anything.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah,
it is.
And that's kind of the work that I do with people as well, is their identity.
Yes, absolutely.
Where they're at.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to you.
Certain things.
Yeah. So how did you get from childcare business to the .com situation?
Well, so that would have been around 1992 I was doing that. So I was, it's 64, so I was 20, was I? Well, about in my early 30s, 30-ish. And obviously I'd come from the tech industry, and Thomas had a meeting with a guy, Martin Slagter, who's passed away sadly, but he used to work for Michael Dell and run Europe, the guy called Andrew Harris. And they had left and were starting a business to get computers into the home. So they'd been working for Dell, but now the whole transformation of the home with home computing. And I had actually been part of in 1984 when I joined, 83 when I joined the tech industry. It was the transformation from mainframes onto desktops on people's desks. And now here we were, roughly 10 years later, was going to be home computing.
Mm.
And they were setting up a business, and they'd done a contract with Compaq, which might be a brand you know. Compaq sold to HP in the end. Of home computing, and it was the growth start of the CD-ROM and Usborne Books, it was called, and encyclopedias on discs, and all this home knowledge, home encyclopedias on the computer, and the use of home computing. And I went and had a meeting with him, and he asked if I would set it up with him from the sales point of view. And they wanted to do it with agents, self-employed agents, and these people were often in employment, but they were doing it as a second job, and they were possibly tech savvy people. And over about 18 months, I recruited 680 agents. And on a Saturday, while Thomas was playing rugby and the kids were sitting in pushchairs watching, I'd be up in Richmond training the new agents that I'd recruited. And then we just had Hannah and Ross. Teacher wasn't born, but I got pregnant. And in that time, it was getting really hard to carry these computers into schools to do these education nights. And also I was managing 680 agents, not all directly, because it was that network marketing type thing. So somebody else would have recruited.
Right.
So Carolyn Boddington, who you know, she was one of our agents.
Mm.
A guy called Glenn Watkins, who ended up being our CTO of E-cademy, was one of our agents. E-cademy being the social network we started. Anyway, so I resigned from it, and a brilliant guy called Roger Hamilton, who's very well known, took my job, and I then had TJ. And then I was at home. TJ was about 6 months old, and the internet was really starting to fly very fast, very fast. We're talking about 1998, 99. And I said to Thomas one day, look, as an entrepreneur, and I'm not an entrepreneur, but you know, your networking is so important to you and you're a brilliant networker. Wouldn't it be really nice to create a community of entrepreneurs? Because I had created a community of self-employed people selling computers into the home, but we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the platform for it, and social networking didn't exist. Even what's that one? The school one, not the school one. Friends Reunited hadn't started, which was a big thing that came out. So he said, I really like the idea of that. And we created E-cademy. And we hired Glenn, who was one of our agents of the home computing, to be the CTO. I got £250,000 from a guy who I'd done some interim sales director work, very short period of time for, during that time when I was at home, and started E-cademy. And that was the birth of social networking. There was no social networking. Reid Hoffman was one of our members from California, from Silicon Valley. He didn't start LinkedIn until another 4 years. Twitter hadn't started, Facebook hadn't started. And we were trailblazing the concept of being friends with one another in business online. But we very quickly knew that we needed to do in-person events. So we started clubs, and people set up the Dubai Academy, the Sydney Academy, the Perth Academy, the Luton Academy, the London, so we ended up in its prime having 5,000 in-person events across the world. And Thomas and I, with the kids, would travel as much as we could. Thomas often went out on his own to meet them, but I, with school holidays and things, and occasionally as the kids got a bit older, I would go as well on my own to different places, to Asia and America, and I was all over the world. And that's what we did until 2012. Social media came in really significantly around 2009. And I was speaking on some big platform. I can't remember which conference was, somewhere in the world. And I could sense that social media and people's behaviors were changing. First of all, they wanted free. There was a book came out called Freemium. And it was all about how do you go from free to freemium. LinkedIn was free. Facebook was free. Twitter had just launched. It was free.
The Academy wasn't free.
Academy wasn't free because our members were all we focused on, not sponsors, not advertisers. We just sponsored. We focused on the members.
Yeah.
But there became this sort of saying that the members in all these other ones, the members are the product, because all the
Yeah.
advertisers wanted to reach them, and we didn't want to go that route. But also, so everybody wanted free and nobody wanted conversation anymore. They saw social media as a chance of going from conversation to broadcast, and likes and all this just took off, having followers. And E-cademy was a closed community of members that loved and supported one another. And just over time, we could just see the trickle away. And we went to Clydesdale, borrowed £250,000. Barclays were going to buy us. And we were about, then Barclays pulled out because the banking crisis, and the CEO was the front page, as the nastiest man in the world, and the bankers were hated, and they thought, we can't buy a business social network, although it would have been a good idea for them. So they pulled out on the day we were due to sign.
Oh, God.
Got a Clydesdale bank loan, and then 3 years into the 5 years of paying it back, they contacted us and about 650,000 other small businesses. This is what I'm told. People, if they're listening, can verify it online. Clydesdale sold to an Australian bank, and they had to improve their balance sheet, and they wanted to sell their debt, get rid of their debt. And we had 29 days to save E-cademy, and the only buyer we could buy was not the right one, really, but we couldn't cope. We had personal debt that we had accrued by not taking income for ourselves, trying to keep roof over heads and children in schools and everything, and which amounted to a vast amount of money. We paid salaries, and we were paying out of personal debt people's salaries to keep it going. But we didn't want the liabilities, so we sold it just for the liabilities.
Yeah.
Took the liabilities of the business. And 2012, we were, walking around in the wilderness.
Wow. So back to zero.
Minus zero.
Minus zero.
I remember Thomas Ross coming in and saying, Dad, are we millionaires? And Thomas said, no, son, we're minus millionaires. And he went, we're minus millionaires.
Oh, God. So
and then it's just a case of rebuilding.
yeah.
And lots of personal traumas happen around our family and our extended family, and deaths and dementias and traumas. And they just keep going because you have to.
How do you bounce back from something like that? How did you bounce back from something like that?
I think mentally I'm still probably bouncing. But I think it's what we started the conversation about. You just, at the core of everything is I always wanted to be a happy mum and a calm mum and a loving mum, and to be able to focus on the kids and their needs. I think it's the biggest responsibility you can ever have in your life is choosing to give birth to a child. Because that child is either going to contribute to the world or be a burden on the world. And I very much focused on them. I worked very hard. I started a couple of other businesses, kept my speaking up. And so that all happened in 2012. By 2018, Thomas and I had paid down 110 credit cards, and we didn't want to go bankrupt. And it was the same year that Thomas got cancer that we finally paid it down. I remember the moment I had a spreadsheet called the Monster Spreadsheet, and it had all the months of the year for 5 years across the top, and all the credit cards and the payments I would make each month to pay them down.
God.
I remember saying to him, Thomas, this is the month. They're all paid off, £750,000.
Blimey.
And I remember sitting by our little fire in our little house, and we burnt it. And about 2 months later, Thomas got cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. And obviously he's been fantastic. He's healed. And yeah. So it was a big journey.
Massive. How did you find motherhood throughout that period? And what would you do differently, if anything? Because we're, in a sense, we're kind of maybe in that situation, me and my other half.
Yeah. It's hard, as so many people are. I just think, who do I want to be as a parent, right? Absolutely. And how distracted do I want to be from them when I'm with them? And I think attention is love. And so that's the thing I wanted to give. By 2012, so Hannah was, Hannah was what age? I mean, Hannah was born in 92, so she was 20. They were all a bit older. Ross, TJ was 15. So they had a bit more of their own life, Hannah wasn't, God, I'm useless at maths, but Hannah was, I remember she was in her gap year, about to go travelling. And Ross was finishing his A-levels, I think that's right. And TJ was at school. And I think if I look back, when TJ, who's authored the Dose Effect, when he talks about his mental health and his obsession with his phone and all this stuff, I sometimes, it's like a stab in my heart thinking, was I as aware of everything? We weren't that aware of phones
Well,
anymore.
yeah, the wasn't
then.
known, was it?
But we always had, I didn't create a social life, Thomas and I, much for social life, because Saturday nights were always being in, having a nice meal, watching X Factor, laughing. We've always laughed a huge amount as a family. I mean, piss ourselves laughing, I mean, really laugh. We do. I mean, every time we see each other now, we laugh. There's a family humour. And I think laughter's huge. Love is huge. And I think the kids probably in some senses knew too much, but also knew enough to understand why mum and dad were like they were, what they were going through to try and keep everything going. But I would imagine for all three of them, they probably got financial trauma in their system. Because we moved into a rental in 2017 and didn't accrue enough money to get a deposit again until 2022. So from 2007 to 2022, we were in different rentals. And we had some huge laughs about our storage unit and our packing up the house. And I mean, I could privately send you a video that would make you laugh your head off. Thomas going up and down into an attic and saying, "Do you need this shit, kids?" As we were scaling down. And we really have scaled down. And it has meant the kids say to us that they've got resilience, they've got flexibility, they've got adaptability, they've got hope because they always know we got through everything.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
They've got creativity, they problem solve, they take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
They've got all these strengths. And so in my dying breath, when I think, did I do the right job on earth? Hopefully I did the right job with my family. And I hope I did the right job for my clients. I hope they benefited as well through any of the shit we went through and any of the love we could give.
Well, I'm sure you did. I mean, from what I know about all of your children, they're incredibly successful. And
but they probably have got financial trauma. They probably have got that because they saw their parents on the front page of newspapers. The business, we were personally valued at 22 million. The business valued at 66 million. They've seen it all. They've seen us on huge stages. They've travelled a few times when people have hired us. They've had to pay for the children. They've seen us all in first class seats in Asia, travelling around for me and Dad Thomas to speak. They've seen big time and seen it all go. And so I don't think they would ever take anything for granted. I think that's what keeps them so grounded.
It might be trauma, or it could be that they got to learn the lesson early on, which is actually a real gift.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, they're all super careful.
Yeah.
With pension and all sorts of things, which again isn't wrong to. I didn't start pension. We thought we were going to be millionaires, Rodney. We didn't start a pension until we were much older.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to a entrepreneurial mother?
An entrepreneurial mother?
Or couple, me as well, who are...
Well, I think the biggest stress for a parent is knowing where your priorities lie. And so many times I've had a conflict where do I go to this massive speech where I could be paid a lot of money, or do I go to my kids' sports day? Do I, and what I decided actually when Hannah was very little in a playground, she was 5. And so I had the 3 of them and TJ and Ross, and they were younger, obviously. And I remember Hannah did a little bit of recruitment for a while in the e-commerce space on my own, and I remember a client ringing me, a candidate ringing me to say how an interview had gone, and I knew I needed to answer it, but Hannah was in the playground running towards me. But I answered it, and I just said, "Paul, I've got to go. I'm at Waterloo, and it's too noisy, and I'm running for a train." Right? And I put the kids back in the car, and I remember exactly the spot driving along a road in Frensham in Farnham. I thought, why the F did I just lie about the fact that I was actually in a playground with my kids? Why was my identity more important to be at Waterloo than here? And I felt so disgusted with myself, not just for lying, but also dishonoring the fact I was with my kids. And I thought, no, people, I am a parent first and then a businesswoman. And therefore, whenever I had those moments of, do I do this or do this? The kids always came first.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It didn't matter if I didn't get the money, if it was something special for them, or didn't attend something that was, and everybody around me had to understand that.
Did people respect that, or was it frowned upon? I think it's more respected now, but maybe.
I don't know what they thought.
Yeah. Who cares?
I don't care what they thought. If you care what they think, you can't do it.
Yeah.
I just did it respectfully. I mean, the same with BIP at the moment. You know, I said to TJ, don't work in January, don't deliver. Members will understand you're becoming a father.
Yeah, of course.
Life happens. And the other thing is, I never, ever would work weekends, because I thought if I have to work weekends away from my children, then I'm doing something really wrong. So I just chose never to work weekends. So weekends were really dedicated to their sport, to X Factor, and I didn't do Pilates and tennis and stuff with friends, and I didn't do that. And I'm paying the price of that now, because it can be quite lonely, because all the women in Farnham are in a solid community because they didn't work.
Right.
And so sometimes I can feel very lonely, but I've eked my way back into a book club now that I go to. And, but you know, I'm not seen when they come to our apartment. They don't see me for the person I've been and the things I've got through. So, but maybe increasingly they do see me, you know.
So the only thing that matters is that you see yourself.
Yeah, and my kids and and the people that put up with me, warts and all, you know.
Yeah. Earlier on, we spoke about the future and service and community and significance as well, which I know has been on your mind a lot.
Yes.
Do you want to speak a bit to that?
Yeah, well, I suppose I've said that about community. I think the greatest thing in my life was that I ended up understanding how to build community, and not build it around my ego, but build it around the desire for the success of the people that we serve. So that's been fantastic. And I really believe it's the most wonderful part of a business that somebody could create, whether it's just creates loyalty with the clients, or you create it as a business like we have. I think it's a really important subject. This thing about significance is really important to me. And I think Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs, and significance is one of them. And I never really, really understood it until I started to delve deeply into it. And it happened when I realized TJ told us that he was going to be a father, and and was going to move to Australia. And it really hit me hard, because it was in the same breath. And it hit me in a way that all the other traumas that we've been through didn't hit me. And I think I really worked hard for weeks and weeks and weeks to understand what was the language of this, what was affecting me, and how did it link to anything, because it was almost a trauma response I had to my childhood. And I realized that for some reason I didn't know how to be significant to him anymore. If he was not close by, if I wasn't making a Sunday roast, if I wasn't seeing him, because a lot of my life they've been close by. So I had this massive sense of insignificance. And so I've started to really look at that and think that significance does happen because you can contribute. So to me, this is a significant interview with you because you are asking me questions that are beautiful to be able to talk about, and you're making me feel significant, making me feel I matter. And if we think about the people that are close to us, that we really have strong relationships with, usually it's because they enable us to contribute to them and they contribute to us. So contribution is a really fascinating subject to me. It's like two sides of a coin. How can we feel significant to someone without contribution? But contribution changes over time. The way a mother can contribute to a child from birth through to them becoming fathers and things, it's going to change because the needs change. But and all the way down to writing a post. If you don't write a post with the desire to have an impact on someone when they read it and contribute, then that post is of no value to anyone. It's got to contribute. So I think it's a really interesting subject. And I think I remember one of my first people that worked for me, I hired her in when I was a manager. She was called Elaine. She didn't use the word significance, but she said, somehow you always show people how much they matter, Penny. And I remember that. It was a really amazing thing to be told. And I just think it's not some strategy. It's just inherent in me. And I think it's inherent in all of us. But we need to create relationships where others are willing to be vulnerable and we're willing to be vulnerable. And there's different levels of vulnerability that we can go to. But and that's how you create community, because everybody rises, because everybody's sense of significance rises, because they're all contributing to one another.
You do feel, you feel like you can create things when you're significant. You can make things that matter, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I did one of these with Thomas Fortismer podcast.
Oh yeah,
and he said something like, most people believe that they're a meaningless nothing in a hopeless universe, or a hopeless nothing in a meaningless universe. And I think he's right. And I think I listened to something else the other day which really blew my mind, and I've been thinking about it ever since. And it is linked to significance. And it was a podcast about a psychedelic called DMT, which basically is called the God molecule, because everyone has a very similar experience where they meet God, essentially, or they meet these entities and whatever. And he's a scientist, and he was talking about it. He studied it, and he said there's the size difference between the known universe and an atom is, humans are in the middle of that scale in terms of their actual size. Below the atom, there's 10 times that distance.
My God.
Which is just like,
wow.
So, because we only look at the universe and go, oh, it's massive and we're so significant.
But not what's beneath. That's really interesting.
So that means you're way more significant than you realize.
Yeah, absolutely. But each one of us is so significant to the whole. The vibration that we send out can make such a difference to everybody that we meet.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really interesting when you listen to homeless people. More important than giving them food is to sit and chat with them. Because food doesn't make them feel significant. It fills their stomach. But a conversation with them where they see somebody notices them and that they're still part of this human life. And we've got a guy at the moment in Farnham, near Sainsbury's, and he's homeless. And I always buy him a meal deal and do all of that, and bought him a blanket yesterday. But he's called David, and I chat to him, and I think people underestimate how important they are to the universe just by their presence, just by showing somebody, even in when you're buying something in a shop, when you're seeing a stranger on the tube, saying something to them, just because we all walk around with things in our ears, and we're just all blindly walking around, not contributing to anyone and not receiving any contribution, because we've closed ourselves off to one another so much.
And then we just feel isolated.
Yeah, and when somebody says to you, you say to someone, oh, that's a beautiful coat, or that's a really interesting book you're reading, or anything that makes them see that I'm sitting here, but I'm noticed, I'm here. It's and we all can give that gift. and it costs
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any insight from your sort of faith and on the spiritual side of things as to significance and the importance of that? I know you spoke a bit about it then, but
Well, I know that I'm interested in it. I mean,
yeah.
I've got my crucifix now, holding it a lot at the moment because TJ's baby's due.
Mm.
And actually last night, two Christian mentors, a husband and wife, came around last night and we talked to them. And what I find really interesting is when they're really plugged in, when people are really plugged in, the faith in him is so strong that they feel so significant to God. Right. And I don't know how they achieve that. Because I don't think I know God, but I have no idea that he knows me.
Right.
And
Take
therefore
some
I don't feel significant. Take some drugs.
Take some DMT, yeah.
So, so I have no idea. That's massive faith, isn't it? To think
Yeah.
that he's even knows you exist.
True.
So it's a journey, I think. It's a journey.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
One last thing that I want to talk to you about, which we've spoken about several times. What does the word masculinity mean to you?
Oh, wow. This is a tough one. I actually had a big conversation at lunch this Sunday lunch, and I failed terribly at the table with the children about this subject.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Don't know.
Oh,
Still
okay.
learning. It's
So
a
what is?
really complicated subject, this.
Yeah. What do you find complicated about it?
Because deep in my heart, oh
Yeah.
God, I'm scared of this. So everybody listening to this,
It's all right. It's just your thoughts, just your ponderings
I
in this
do
moment.
like roles
Yeah.
within a family.
Mm-hmm.
I like my husband to be the man and do man things,
Okay.
and me to be a woman. So I like the fact that I cook, and I like the fact that Thomas takes the bins out, right? This taking it very simply.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that Thomas hunts for a business and I farm and support the business.
Mm.
Right? But, I'm a child of the 60s, and I've been through the whole empowerment of women, watching it all happen.
Right.
But I think it's gone a little bit wrong. And I don't blame either party. It's just society. And I think it's been really tough on both men and women.
Mm.
And a lot of the focus is on women and how hard it's been for them. But I deeply believe there needs to be a lot of focus on men and how hard it's been for them.
Mm. Mm. What do you feel like has been hard for men?
I think it's just a huge amount's been expected. Oh, God, I hope the person. I just think there's huge amounts has been expected of men, and I don't think enough support has been given to the men in the empowerment of women. I don't
You
think.
don't feel like enough empowerment, support has been given to men in the empowerment of women.
Yeah. Because they've been dislodged, but people say, well, they've chosen to be dislodged, or whether it's
Dislodged from their roles.
from their roles. And I don't think men, and I think it's wonderful what you do for this reason, I don't think men really know I'm being very generic, not all men, but
Yeah.
I don't think they really know how to handle this new world. I think it's
I agree. Yeah.
really, really difficult for them. What to say, not offending someone, how to flirt, how to
Mm.
pick up a girl in a bar, how to handle situations in the office I think it's just really hard. And there's an argument that women had it really hard. I mean, I had to leave a really great job because I was sexually harassed by my boss. I'm not saying that it's not been incredibly hard for women. So I'm not taking sides at all. At all.
Mm.
I just think women want men and men want women.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
What the answers to it are, how we address it.
Mm.
I don't know the answers. I haven't got the answer to it. But I do
What-
think until we really support the men like you are, and we put a bit of focus and light on how hard this transition has been also for men, I don't think we will find the solution.
I think just acknowledging it is powerful in itself. And just speaking about
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and then it can be.
Yeah.
We can find the answers.
Yeah.
Come to men's camp. Come to
Yeah.
the CEO camp out.
Men's camp.
Yeah.
But, it's I think the world is very hard now for women. I do, so I want to say that. I did a talk at a lawyer's office, 40 female lawyers. They chatted to me afterwards. And to a certain extent, their men have chosen or have been disempowered, and they are carrying everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not getting
Not fair, or it's not useful for women. For
no,
men to be
and
so
they're not getting a
disempowered.
chance to be the mothers they want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really tough societal shift that's happening. And yeah. But I love being a woman.
And you love having a great man.
And I love having a great man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all that you need to say, I think, on it.
Yeah.
I'm conscious of time.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time, Penny.
No,
That
it's
was a great
beautiful.
conversation. If anyone wants to join BIP or find out more about you, or like, how do they do that?
So on LinkedIn, Penny Power or Thomas Power, you come to the BIP website, which is BIP100.club, which stands for Business is Personal 100.club. They're very welcome to contact us, come to a lunch and as a guest and see if they like the people and see if people like them. It works both ways.
Oh.
I've got a Penny Power website, pennypower.co.uk. I genuinely try to keep in touch with anybody that gets in touch with me. And also they can do it through you. They can contact you.
They can.
And which
Point
is
them in
very
the right direction.
Yeah. So, I hope I think we've had a lovely conversation. I forgot even that we were being recorded completely until you asked me that really tricky question.
Yeah, then you're like, oh,
really
shit.
lovely. It's been lovely reflecting on life and reaffirming stuff to myself. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was great to get to know you a bit better.
Yeah. Thank you.
And hear your story. All right. Lots of love. See you soon.
Lots of love. And thank you anybody that's listened.
Well, that was such a phenomenal conversation with Penny. Thank you for listening. I learned a lot from talking to her about being grateful for the things that we have and the consequence of not being grateful for it is that it may disappear. That was one of my biggest takeaways from that conversation. And also just a reminder to me to prioritize the things that are important, not necessarily the things that are shouting the loudest. So thanks again for listening. Please make sure you subscribe and think about somebody who might benefit from listening to that episode and send the episode to them, and you'll be serving them by doing that. If anything in the conversation resonated with you, you can get in touch via the website. And I want to talk to you about Kingmaker. So Kingmaker is an initiation program for men. I've recently opened the academy. The waiting list is open for the academy. And this is a community that you can apply to join, and you can take yourself through a rite of passage, and you can be initiated in a modern setting, in a modern day kind of way. I've done a lot of work on myself over the last few years, understanding what it means to be a man, what masculinity means, and what's important to understand as a man, so that we don't operate in our shadows self, which means the self of us, the part of us which is perhaps a bit angry, sad, depressed, miserable, fearful. We're not broken as men, we're just under-led. And the kingmaker is a way of understanding what it means to be a king. Every man has a king within him, the leader, the assertive one, the calm, grounded one who provides direction for himself and for those around him. So that's what the kingmaker is for. So if you would like to apply for initiation, then click the link on the website. Find me on social media at Coach Ben Price, and you will find the links to the kingmaker, and go ahead and apply. And if you apply, you're going to get two things for free, which I highly recommend that you go and get anyway. That is my book, which is Conversations with a Suicide Bomber. You're going to get a recording of my book, and you're also going to get my Kingmaker Journal, which is a long it's been a long process creating that journal. It's been a 5-year process of gathering lots of different tools from really incredible thinkers around the world, and putting it all into one useful journal, which you can use to help organize your life and to understand how you can become a king, and to get some focus and productivity and some structure in your life. All right. Thanks again for watching. My name's Ben, and I'll see you on the flip side. Lots of love.